All right, very good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar hosted by MAHRP in partnership with UNDP Maldives. We are very pleased that we had the opportunity to collaborate with UNDP and host this wonderful conversation this evening. As you can see with me, we have 5 speakers who's going to be our panelists this evening. Before we actually get into some details of it, I just want to share some administrative guidelines for our webinar this evening. I see we have participants joining, and also you can see that this is available live on MAHRP Facebook page. So participants can write comments in the chat box. At MAHRP in our webinars, we like to keep very interactive. So, you know, if you hear a good idea or if you think we miss a good idea, you can go and write that and we will catch up those ideas along the way. Also, if you have any questions, you can actually go to the Q&A box and you can write the questions. The same thing applies to our Facebook page. You can write the comments and we will take it from there. So once again, welcome, and wherever you are joining from the world, we're very pleased to have all of you. I just want to give an introduction of what this webinar is all about and what we are about to do this evening. This is an hour-and-a-half conversation, so during this conversation, we intend to add value to all of you in terms of learning about the future of work and the opportunities ahead, and really challenging the status quo of what we are already doing. As many of you know, UNDP has done a wonderful report just a couple of weeks ago, and it was the preliminary report was published. This was done in partnership with the Ministry of Economic and Development, and the topic was specifically focusing on the crisis that we are all in, the pandemic of COVID-19, and the specific impact on the employment sector in the Maldives. As we all know, tourism or hospitality being the largest sector in the Maldives, this was impacted heavily. But we are very pleased and quite relieved that the government announced the reopening of the border. We can already see there's some good changes, and we as industry members, we assure that we'll bounce back very, very strongly. And following this report, obviously there are some key areas that we need to address today. And as you can see on the webinar platform today, we have great speakers, industry colleagues, and some very experienced hoteliers too. So I would like to introduce our panelists and our speakers today. I would like to start with Rania. Rania is the Development Economics at UNDP Maldives, and she conducts a lot of research around international standards, international guidelines, opportunities available, and a lot of the research challenges what we already do and how can we do better. And I think as a country, as a nation, a lot of our decisions in future, we need to also base specifically towards some of this research. And Rania will be co-hosting this with me and asking questions from our other speakers. So, and then we have Zakaria Isa, Zaki. And Zaki is currently the Director of Training and Development at Crown and Champa Resorts. He carries a lot of experience. He was a general manager before. He's done a lot of work in operation. Usually what we see is that, from training or from service side, we go into the majorly into operation, but he took a different step when he lost what he's doing. And also we have actually a Maldivian who is joining all the way from Portugal. So that is Naisha Hanif, a freelance graphic designer and a certified yoga instructor. She's going to be speaking specifically on the topic around freelancing, the opportunities available. So we invited her to join. I'm sure many of you wouldn't need an introduction about Inas. As you can see with that big smile, he's the current CEO of the Job Seeker, and he was also a resort manager. His last job was a resort manager at Sai Lagoon, Maldives. And Shirley, currently the Chief Human Resource Officer at the Human Capital Support Maldives. Shirley was one of the first Maldivian HR directors and who is keen on developing female leaders into this industry. Wherever she has worked, I'm very proud to say that wherever Shirley worked, she actually managed a very high local ratio because she specifically focused on that. And I just want to give a credit to her on this introduction. And I got to know Shirley quite well in the last couple of years because she's also a executive member of the founding team of Maldives Association of HR Professional. And I realized I didn't say who I am, but I guess you know, I'm Afif, I'm the president of the association, and I'm very happy to be the lead facilitator to take all of you through this evening. So once again, before I hand over to Rania, please write, go to the chat box and write comments, feedback, anything you hear well, or any questions, we'll be taking it from there. So now I hand over to Rania to take us through the various questions and the discussions that we have this evening. Over to you, Rania.
Thank you, Afif. Thank you for that introduction, and very pleased to be here and to have this conversation with the panelists and with you all. As Afif mentioned, UNDP supported the Ministry of Economic Development to do a rapid livelihood assessment. And we started the work mid-March to look at the impact on employment in the tourism sector. And we released a preliminary report a couple of weeks ago, and we have some key findings and also recommendations. The key findings look at the impact on the scale of impact, and we know that on the resorts alone, there are about 45,000 45,000 employees in total, 22,000 Maldivians. So that's quite a large proportion of our population, and we know that all of them have been impacted in some way or the other. 16% have lost their jobs. Others were put on no pay for the period of the resort closure from the April to June period. And then the remaining received some sort of a pay, which was also a reduced pay. So in one way or another, the population, the resort population, the 22,000 Maldivians have been impacted. And we also in the report highlighted some recommendations around tourism recovery, but also looking at how this, this juncture, this point in time, how we can actually explore options to reshape the Maldives tourism industry. So tonight's discussion is also going to do some deep dives on these recommendations that we have. And that's why we have this very kind of futuristic topic about, what would the future of employment and work in the tourism industry look like? And when we talk about future of work, there are certain things that usually come up. It's about where we work, it's about the workforce, what does it look like, and also what the type of work that we would be doing. So we'll be covering a lot of those areas. To kick off the discussion, we'll be starting with the topic of reopening. As Afif mentioned, it's an exciting time. In a couple of weeks, Maldives will be open for business, and we know that a lot of resorts are already planning to open on 15th of July. So very exciting time. So we'll cover the first topic on how this transition to reopening and resuming operations would look like. And my first question is to Charlie, our panelist. Charlie, can you tell us a little bit about the crisis as well? During this crisis, how were you working? Were you working full-time? Where were you working? And then also, can you reflect a little bit on what what the resort's employment would look like from 15th of July onwards? What would the staff reconfiguration look like when we resume operations? Charlie.
Thank you, Rania. First of all, thank you for the opportunity, Afif. As we all know that everybody has been affected by this pandemic. And for me, it was when it all started, I was working from home. And I was not based in the resort, but I have pretty much got a lot of calls from the team members, those who were working in the resort. So I was helping them and talking to them and guiding them through the process as well. And we are all in this together. I have to say again one more time, because this is something that has been very new to us, and there's something that we were not expecting, not prepared to for. With regards to the opening of the resorts, we know that most of the resorts are going to be opening on the 15th of July or in July sometime. And with regards to the maining, everybody's going to go for the cost-effective methods. And we have to understand that the resorts are opening during the low occupancy, or let's say the low season in the Maldives, which is to July onwards. And not all the resorts are going to go for the mass recruitment or hiring everybody at the same time, because it will be based on their forecast, occupancy, and the business requirement. And then this is something that needs to go through with HR as well. And then what will happen is that we have to look at the business model of the company, how the structure is going to go. So the configuration will depend on those things. And there are a lot of aspects to look into it, because you can't just bring everybody who's on no pay or everybody who's already on leave or on looking for a job, because you will require to plan ahead for the upcoming season. So these are the factors that will influence when you really look at configuring the staff.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. So it's basically, as you mentioned, we're going to see more of a gradual re-engagement than having everybody.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And I'll move on to Inas. Inas, how have you been working during the crisis? And, you know, I was told that I could ask you about the health and safety aspects of, you know, what the new normal, and how do we actually ensure health and safety of employees when they restart working on the resorts. Do we already have a guideline or some sort of a minimum standard in place? And also, when we talk about health and safety, are we going to see new job positions on the resorts, you know, in terms of in the field of health and safety? Inas?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my opinion on this important topic. As we approach towards the new normal, we already have the guideline from HPA, and 2 days back, the Ministry of Tourism has shared a 28-page document to all of us with a base guideline that every resort has to follow. And quite frankly, it's very reasonable and practical. I have gone through that, and it does not stop somebody going above and beyond in terms of health and safety. When it comes to the staff health and safety aspect, we have to understand that tourism industry is about people, and it is vital that we understand the criticality of the situation and importance of social distancing, because we are opening with COVID-19, with the virus, because it's not gone yet. It's still around, but we are trying to make sure that we do a safe tourism here. So all the resorts should review urgently the guest journey. We call it guest journey. Guest journey starts from pre-arrival to the end of the guest experience. So during the guest journey, there are lots of touch-based points where people engage with the guest personally, interactions, check-in procedures. This is how we look into a lifetime of a guest during their stay in Maldives. So all the resorts should review that, very important, and understand and identify where we can eliminate the personal interactions to protect the staff as well as the guest and to minimize the risk of spread. Example, when the guests arrive to the airport, obviously we do have the guideline that supports that. We have to make sure that all the reps that are working the airport have the sanitizers, face masks, and they are equipped with all the guidelines that we are spreading from HPA and all other sectors. When the guest arrives to the resort, it is important that we also minimize the welcome procedure, because we all know that in the Maldives, the welcoming is a big thing. And we do, you know, a lot of shebang when the welcoming happens. But I think at this time, we have to make sure that we escort the guests directly to the room. That is very, very important to protect the staff and look into the health and safety aspect of the staff. The staff involved in the guest arrival process should be also well trained, and also important to have less staff taking care of the guest throughout their stay, rather than having housekeeping staff going in there, IVD going in there, front office interacting with the staff. So I think we should go into a situation where we should have few or one staff contacting one guest, because it's very important that when we find some positive case in a resort, the contact tracing is not easy. So for that purpose, we have to make sure that we minimize the number of staff looking after the guests. That's one aspect of it. And looking into the during the stay, obviously the resort should maintain measures identifying the guest touch points, as I mentioned. Very simple things, as we probably not many people have realized that in-room compendium is something that every single guest touch. So we should remove the in-room compendium, the printouts that we are giving into the rooms to avoid such risk. And also the other most commonly touched things are TV remotes and the telephone. This needs to be disinfected at every check-in. This is very, very important to make sure that we reduce the risk as well from the staff side as well. In case of CPR, in case of any positive PCR result from the guest side, the resort should be able to identify the staff who are closely working after the guests, and also the staff needs to be isolated. The resort needs to have an internal measures how they can identify the contact tracing procedure. And then we have to look into the staff back of the house areas. This is another important aspect when it comes to the health and safety. Looking into the canteen or the staff mess, it is important to extend the meal period and break down the number of the staff going at one time to avoid such interactions. And in the resorts, we have common areas for washing machines, ironing, and other facilities. These common areas should be eliminated or reduced as much as we can, and provide even smaller household washing machines and individual iron boards and irons to individual rooms. Because when it comes to a positive case, when a staff is found with such a situation, then it is difficult when everybody wash their uniforms and clothes in one location. So I also believe the practice of housekeeping, washing the uniforms for the staff should also be stopped for the time being to protect everybody and give to small household such machines and equipment to individual rooms to make sure that we stay stay safe as well. Now, since we already had a break for a few months in COVID, a lot of staff were in island serving from 15th of July. Not many resorts are going to bring the entire menu. So I think the people who are going to be working in the resorts should also consider to avoid travel within the Maldives or other cities to make sure that we also don't increase the risk of spread. And overall, I believe the guest journey should be fully looked into. This is the main key point here to avoid the risk and protect the staff in terms of health and safety.
All right, Inaz. So I'll quickly move on then to Zaki. Zaki, what about training priorities? Charlie mentioned that we're going to be starting with possibly minimal staff. So do you think it's a good time actually for resorts, there's some breathing space, low occupancy, to invest in training, on-the-job training, apprenticeship? And also, we all know that employees have spent 3 months at home and possibly, not doing much, not working. So do you think resorts would actually prioritize, motivating staff to, how would you go about motivating staff to restart work?
Thank you, Rania, as well, UNDP team, MAHRP, Afif, and panelists and panelists here. All the viewers, I'm sure some of my mentors also, they are viewing it, industry leaders, as well as all the colleagues who are joining this particular session. To all of you, this is very, very important session, I believe. Thank you, MAHRP, again, coordinating with the UNDP. Rania, the question is very, very important. And no doubt that what particular activity in a resort is most important in the reopening of the resort. If you ask, it is training. All the resorts, if you ask, if you remember that all these days we were writing most probably from the right hand, suddenly we are going to ask, can you try from left hand tomorrow. Kind of this is where all the team members who are going to come into reopening would think, even when they're going to cafeteria, they might be asking, have you really washed your hands? Sanitize. These are previously not so much of amplified proportion on the resorts. I would say the occasion, the importance of training is the utmost paramount aspect of reopening during new normal. As Inez has highlighted, the entire hygiene system, cleaning system has been re-amplified or will be re-amplified around the industry. Most of the resort and the management, the concern here is the safety of the employees, safety of the guests who are coming in. So it is no doubt that we will need to be given our utmost attention for staff training for newly amplified systems. The other area that you have highlighted, how are we going to do that? As we have understood, we are not going to really able to recall all the employees to the resort, depending the occupancy cap that we are going to foresee, probably 20, 35 occupancy. So there will be minimum team members, meaning that it will be very, very difficult in such a burden of social distancing and minimum team members on the island to bring them into the classroom. As I have learned from other industry colleagues, mainly the training will be for cloud-based or online-based, as much as they will try. The coaching and mentoring will be very, very much important in this particular perspective in order to motivate them. The leaders, the HODs has to be an example, role model on the island, wherever such system has been implemented. As I've noticed while going through my own company, how well we need to be prepared, the psychosocial aspect of the team members when we are rebounding and them into the resort. Let's say the employability approach has to be a bit changed. After 3 months, they're coming into being a little bit different lifestyle of their life. I would say that when we apply the training, which is most important part when we are reopening, my equation is very, very simple here. These healthy team members will bring the environment, the confidence to the healthy guests there on the island. So to achieve that, training is very, very important. I believe one of the angles that we will be talking about, the emotional intelligence and all adult learning blended approach has to be applied in terms of gamification has to be applied. It kind of like a culture that everybody come as a one team, a task team, that we need to be a swift rebounding, resetting of mindset for welcoming our new customer on the island. That's what I would say. Training is the most important. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaki. Those were very good points. And also, I think, especially for those who are working remotely, I think virtually, you know, with all the interactions online, I think we are probably going to see a little bit of more even personalized management, you know, especially during the Zoom calls. We've had peaks of, you know, what your house looks like, what your sofa looks like, or what your pets are like, or, you know, kids are like. So I think, you know, we hope to see more personalization, more human touch in management as, you know, as this new normal sets in. And I hope that applies to the resorts as well. Now I move on to Naisha. In the report, in the Rapid Livelihood Assessment, we found that one of the hardest hit groups, especially in the Maldives as well, from the crisis were the freelancers, you know, who were providing various services to the resorts, like the music bands, graphic designers, marketing, event teams, artists, you know. And what we found was, like, we have actual data which says that majority work on mutual understanding than proper contracts. So they have very little buffer when the crisis hit. And when their services were, and resorts actually, immediately stopped their services. So there was very little buffer, very little protection for the freelancers. Naisha, could you tell us about your experience through crisis? Of course, you're not in the Maldives, but as a freelancer, what did you go through the crisis? How have you adapted during this time?
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Currently, I'm connecting from Portugal, and Alentejo, Portugal, and I'm working at a company called Dream Sea Surf. So I would say I'm a little disconnected with the Maldives and from taking work from Maldives, but currently during the lockdown, I had like really nice opportunities working remotely from different parts of the world, like globally. And I would say it was an opportunity to get connected more, and to, as a designer, it opened up like a lot of doors to grow as a designer. And currently the situation here is around the world is something like, it's something which came to us really unexpected, and then everyone had to like adapt into these situations, like to take the safety measures, and also like to look into how we can get out of this situation as soon as possible with higher hopes. And in my case, not just as a graphic designer, just as a yoga teacher as well, I started taking my practices online. And I had the opportunity to get connected with my past clients as well. So for me, I'm very comfortable with working remotely since I've been working as a freelancer for the past 10 years. Even as a graphic designer, as a yoga teacher as well. And right now, I would say when I'm working here in Portugal, things are not the same. We slowly started opening up, and we opened our surf camps in the 15th of June. But still, there's so much of things that we need to take care of. And I would say everything is really uncertain even at this moment, and we have to be like really ready to adapt into any situation that we might encounter. And yeah, that's
all
it.
right. Thank you. Yeah, and I think, as a freelancer, you've been really creative setting up online yoga classes, and then to your surprise, you're reconnecting with your clients, and now you have clients from all over the world. So it opens like a whole new world, I think. And I think that kind of brings us to this second topic, and which is actually the main topic of tonight's discussion, the future of work. And as I said before, when we talk about future of work, the narrative is around where we work, what work we do, and what our workforce, what does the workforce look like? So we'll be covering some of the key things that, the key things that are trending when it comes to, future of work. And the real topic we will be covering is whether this crisis will actually accelerate any of those transformations for the Maldives tourism industry. And the things that we're going to be talking about are digitalization, the transition to more flexible work, the gig economy, the type of work that we do. Are we going to see more automation? And a very important topic, inclusivity of the Maldives tourism industry. So my first question is to Inaz, and I would like to ask you about the digitalization. We've all talked about working virtually, working online through this crisis, as all the panelists mentioned. So we've all experimented the virtual work in the tourism industry as well. And also, Zaki was mentioning, and you were mentioning about having possibly less staff on the resorts, and taking operations online can actually reduce the number of people who are living on the resort, and that can actually make our products more safer, more exclusive going forward. So I just want to ask you, are we going to see more digitalization in the Maldives tourism industry? What are the types of departments, functions that you think will go online? What is going to happen in us?
Rania,
Thank you
before
very much.
Inas, can you hold on? Before actually Inas goes, I just want to add a comment here to all the participants. We just want to keep a bit of interaction here with the participants. So, we as Rania mentioned, briefly we have covered, the key part around this whole topic. So a question to all the participants: are you having a good time? If so, go to the chat box and write yes, yes. And if you really enjoy it, write all capital letter yes. Now the thing is, I noticed that some of the participants are writing comments, but when you write the comments, please do choose all panelists and attendees so that all the attendees can see your comment. I see Ali Arafat has written some great thoughts there, but it only came to panelists. So Ali, you may want to copy that and write that onto the panelists and attendees section so that we can all see that. I also see we have nearly 50 participants on our Facebook Live. We see questions that are coming there. And participants, how you're feeling being with us this evening? Excited? I mean, feeling amazing. So go ahead and write that down in the chat box. Inaz, I'm sorry I took a little bit of your time, but I hope we can sort this out later on. But just before you go to your question, I hope, Inaz, you won't forget the question, by the way, right? But
yeah, of course.
Made a comment here. As all the speakers mentioned, I think it's very important, and I want to just to highlight this point here before we move forward. That just 2 days ago, the government announced that that the border will open. I think this has given a lot of confidence to all our stakeholders, the investors, the employees, and I was having a chat with our panelists earlier today. This is a decision. Shall we wait? Because of the fear, or shall we take the risk? I think we as a country made the right decision that we a fine balance between risk and fear. Because once you reopen the border, once you make the announcement, things are going to get in good shape. And if we all pay attention to all these guidelines that we mentioned, the training, that we learn from these training sessions and all the guidelines, I think we as a country will be able to get through this. So great comment from all the speakers there. And over to you, Inas. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Afif. That was nice. Talking about digitalization, this is a very interesting topic. In short, the answer is yes. If you have seen in the past crisis, every time the crisis happened, people and the economists go through a huge, massive learning curve, and they come up with totally a different aspect. So when it comes to the current situation, obviously we in the Maldives, we have used digital gadgets and digital platforms more than ever in our life. And a lot of people are very comfortable with that aspect as well. Now, relating this whole thing to the tourism sector, we all understand we are in a people business. So this is bit of a tough job for us because what we have experienced at the beginning is that when the lockdown and quarantine was announced, obviously with a short period of time, most of the resorts doors were closed. So there were some guests in-house, and most like full menu was in-house in the resort, because at the time it was right after December. So it was a bit of a tough time, obviously, for the resorts to clear all the staff and get rid of, minimize the operation. But then during that time, obviously the operation was eliminated, or I would say minimized. And when the last guest left, the resort staff slowly started going back to their home. So during this period, a lot of leadership roles were outside the resorts, and they were looking into the operation through the digital platforms. They were connected, they were doing Zoom calls, morning meetings happened. General managers were in different part of the world, they could not come back to the resort. So we have seen the industry has used lots of digital platform, but can the tourism industry be digitalized? Like, can we do a virtual operation? That's a discussion. But I do believe there are certain roles that can be done. It doesn't need to be on site. It can be performed off site as well. Now, giving some example, obviously, I believe departments like sales, revenue management, call operator, reservations, and tailors. If you look at finance department, example, AR, purchasing, accounting, and the payroll functions, these functions does not need to be on the property 24/7. It can be functioned outside, or it can be centralized. We have experienced in the Maldives with many resorts and structures where they do cluster roles. If you look at Anantara, if you look at Crossroad Maldives, where the call center sits in a back of the house in a small room, they are trained, they are exposed on a regular basis, but it doesn't matter where they are based because they are not engaging with the guests directly. So what I'm trying to say, my key point here is that we have great chance that we can do offsite operation. And with this COVID, we actually learned that it is possible because we have done it. So in terms of digitalization, I do believe that it is possible, and we will be going through that in that direction a lot. And the second part of the question is that which departments and which functions and how it can be done. So in my opinion, I think the most important thing is to look into the current structure and the responsibilities and the tasks that the existing jobs are being functioned to do the offsite planning, and it is possible.
Thank you, Nizam. In fact, in our report, we found that about 14% of those 45,000 residents on the resorts work in admin, and they could actually work from anywhere in the world if the digitalization happens. And I hope that with the digitalization, we're also going to see more digital entrepreneurs like yourself, more engaged in the tourism business. And then I would like to pose another question to Naisha, and this is really about really kind of linking it to what Inaz has said as well. What are the changes that we're going to see in the workforce? In the past kind of generations, I think we look, what we expect in our work is to devote our time, our life to one career or one employer. But that is changing now, and we are increasingly seeing that people want more flexibility. They like to work with many clients. They like a short-term work. So different options. So and what I'm talking about is the gig economy and freelancing. And if you look at and consulting as well, Shali herself, she spent quite a lot of time. You started off in the resorts, but now she's into consulting, and you have many clients in the industry, and that's what the gig economy looks like. You have sometimes many clients who are competing clients as well, and you offer your services and your expertise and advice. So Naisha, as a freelancer, I want to ask you what your experience has been in terms of, being, especially when you were working in the Maldives and as a freelance graphic designer as well, what were the challenges that you faced in finding clients, finding projects? And, if we are going to see this transition in the workforce to the expansion of more freelancers and an expansion of the gig economy in the Maldives tourism sector, what are the types of support that freelancers will need to be able to operate in the sphere? Naisha.
Okay, I would say at this time it's really hard to find work. Definitely, as a graphic designer, there's more opportunities to work online and to work remotely. And approaching clients is also very hard right now because we don't really know who and how to get in contact with. So this is one of the greatest challenges that we face every day. And then from my past experiences, I've been working as a freelancer for a really long time. So after I left Maldives, I personally tried to get in touch with other previous clients. But the challenge that I have is every single time the comment that I get is that you are not in the same place and they do not want to work remotely. But because of this current situation, you are in a place where there's no other choice but to work remotely. So this is like an opportunity for designers, creatives to learn more about the other skills that you have and to try to find ways to grow yourself in a really creative way, and also to approach to the clients in a creative way. And in my experiences, I've been working with home furnishing companies in USA as well. So it's like I'm just selling my art prints online, and then I just do everything remotely. And in my opinion, for the future, this is going to be like a really good gateway for the new designers and for people who are opening up creatively to start something for themselves and to work from home. And for an example, just to give you a simple example, it could be like working on branding or working on some restaurant, let's say designing a menu, something really simple. But it could be someone who doesn't work in the resort. It doesn't have to be an in-house designer who is doing this work. So this is something that you can take into, you can know. And then as a yoga teacher, I would say this is going to be really challenging, because you cannot really work in a resort when we have like a crisis going on, or else you cannot even do it online. It's something, it would be like something physical. So
yeah, so I think some of the support that freelancers need, as you said, would be in the area of, networking, finding clients, finding, and also, as you said, the digitalization and open-mindedness of managements would be very key to actually, kind of unlock opportunities for freelancers. So I'll just move on then to Zaki. Zaki has written about, automation and AI and potential AI that might come to the industry, which is something I never ever thought about, because tourism industry is very kind of labor intensive, and, it's about people. So Zaki, I want to ask you, with this crisis, and we've heard already that many businesses are already, as part of the cost cutting as well, they're looking at automation. Is the crisis going to kind of bring out automation and AI? Are we going to see more of that in the Maldives tourism industry? Zaki,
Thank you, Rania, and our panelist. Inez, of course, has helped me a lot to really agree on that. The artificial intelligence or machine learning is important. I would ask all the panelists and the viewers, our participants, get ready to face the reality. Get ready to come into 21st century beyond. This is where where the service industry, where the hospitality industry or any other industry is actually coming now. I agree with some of the viewers. They have already said that this is a very much people industry, and being a hotelier, being in industry, people service, people smile. The field is inseparable from our industry. But the machine learning is, and artificial intelligence bring us together. Can you all look at you today? Where are you? You are connecting. And the point here is We need to be more open now. Can we really know how to use Zoom? How many of us understand all the functions of Zoom? If we know the Zoom functions, we will be more excited. We will be more connected. We will be using it better. Very much on nutshell, definitely artificial intelligence or machine learning will reduce recurring cost. As Inaz has mentioned, some of the areas in the back of the house, accounting systems, revenue system, sales and marketing, especially the customer relations management could be an advantage of connecting artificial intelligence. Big data, we have to remember that, which is coming booming into the industry. People need to understand that as well. How to contain all this data, we need to invest on that. We need to realize that. As you might have heard from the news, in 2018, there was a big rally on Marriott International. 8,000 people really shouting. There was one standing out thing that human being or the team members asking, is the machine learning or automation is going to take away human jobs? What I would say here is the machine learning or artificial intelligence will rather not take our jobs. That would help us to increase the efficiency, productivity, have more time to plan, to organize, to be more like, I would say my colleague who is freelance, they will have more chance, but they will be connected to many areas. I'm sure some of you have heard about the robotic introduction in different sector of the hotel industry now. Well, I was conducting a training in a leadership program in one of our resorts. And this particular robotic clip was bartending. My head barman says, Zaki, what are you talking about? Do you think that all the barmans, bartenders will no longer be there? Because it's fantastic to see how the robot really put very synchronizing ingredients from the shaker to the glass, and exactly how the measurement that human being taking. So there is some degree of understanding, or there will be no longer real human bartenders. Not really, like the efficiency, the time saving is a part of that we need to understand there. The artificial intelligence and machine learning will or would not be replacing, especially in the hospitality industry. Don't worry about that. But we need to increase our productivity. We need to increase our efficiency. We need to make sure the cost-effective methods, processes, and system approaches, the motion approaches, and all this. That is where we cannot looking back. We could not look back because the industries has been changed, mindset has been changed. We need to be ready now. People asking, get ready to meet the generation CX. Who are generation CX? Well, we need to understand the millennials are coming into the resorts, and they are the big part which is going to be played. We are going to be ready for sentinels, where these people are more on the artificial intelligence. Their mindset is working like that. I would say there is a consequence. There is a side, flip side of that as well. Do we have the data privacy? Probably when we are introducing these things into the service industry, we need to really make sure wisely to be used. But overall, I would suggest the viewers and other panelists and our program listeners, artificial intelligence, machine learning is important because the new generation that we are going to employ in the resorts will have to understand this particular area. Without learning the computer science, we will never know how to use computer. We will never know Microsoft. We will never able to be run the reservation systems. We will never know how to operate the customer relations management. We will never know IPTV to operate and all these things. Overall, I would say be comfortable, be ready in your mindset. it will be reducing cost. Rather, it will be then increase efficiency, operational sustainability, and customer experience will be increased. Our request all the panelists and the viewers, welcome artificial intelligence and machine learning to the industry. We will not be away from these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaki, for those insights. Very interesting. You're giving me ideas as well. I wish I could have a robotic chef. And I think you made a good point about the displacement as well, and globally as well. You know, there are those who argue that with automation, a lot of jobs will be lost, but at the same time, a lot of new jobs would be created. So we have to look at it in that positive manner. And we have to prepare, as you rightly said, we have to actually prepare for that. And I think that's the key to making it a success. And now we come to the final point of this topic, and this is my favorite topic, I would favorite point actually, I would say, which is about inclusivity in the tourism industry. You know, when we did the report, we saw that, you know, we have more foreigners than Maldivians working in the industry. And at the same time, you know, the ratio, the share of women in the industry is very, very low, just 10%. And if you look at just Maldivian women, it's 3%. That's almost negligible, I would say. So how, I want to ask this question to Charlie, because, you know, this has been her passion, and, you know, it's very exciting to know that, you know, where she has worked, she's been able to actually achieve higher local ratios. So I want to ask this question to Charlie. You know, we've talked about the digitalization and all these different changes that we're going to see. And with those changes, with these transformations, do you think we can actually kind of, you know, re-strategize the path for the Maldives tourism industry? Can we actually shift the ratios with these transformations to have more Maldivians, more young people, more women in the industry? You know, Afif and I made sure that at least our panel had the ratios that we want to see in the industry, and we managed to get it. So Charlie, over to you.
That's good, Rania. That's good. I think, yes, very interesting. One of my passionate areas, as you all know, when we look at to the locals, the opportunities are always there. But the thing is that we really need to look, because of this situation, what has happened with the COVID and all these things, that this is a really good time for us to review the current structure and how we can actually try to get more locals into the industry. The ratio itself says that there are a lot of expatriates working in the Maldives, but we have the workforce here, but do they want to be in the industry? We need to generate their interest. And there are a lot of, right now also, if we really look into, there are a lot of people from the industry and also from the higher education ministry trying to bring a lot of training programs, which is free and online. And we need to really make sure that these people are attracted to these platforms, they participate in these training programs. This is a golden opportunity for them. So they can do the training right now, the theoretical part or the introduction to the hospitality industry, and also to understand what it's all about, change their mindset. And yes, it's a great place to work. So we need to do a little bit more on the PR aspect. We need to make sure that we go out there, maybe the industry experts, or maybe from the government side, or maybe from the NGOs, or maybe from the industry itself, the resorts. They need to go a little bit more further and start actually talking about the opportunities available. The other thing is that we can talk about a lot of trainings, then internship, traineeship, but the opportunities for these people are there. Is it there really? We have to come to a commitment. Yes, if you participate in these training programs, if you go out there and make an effort to be in that, yes, you are going to get that commitment from the resort management that you will get the jobs. That's one area where we have to really look into. I'm sure there are a lot of people who, if they really know what the career path or the future of the resort industry is going to be, they will, the youngsters, we need to attract these people to the industry. So the PR, the trainings, all these opportunities need to be laid out. And this is the right time for us to restructure, re-evaluate, and look into those areas. When it comes to women in the industry, yes, it's very less, but we also need to know that the opportunities are always been there, but the logistic is a problem. We have to now change the way we really look into these positions. For example, when Inaz was talking about, he was saying that there are certain departments or certain positions, even Zaki was mentioning, to a certain extent, Aisha as well. There are places or positions that we can actually, doesn't have to be in the resort, right? There are admin positions. There are, for example, let's just come to a very simple example where I just get the idea, tailoring department in the housekeeping. This position can actually, the local ladies in the local islands, which is nearby the resorts, we can outsource, or even they can work from home. They can do the work. They don't need to be in the resort all the time. They can come to make the measurements. They can check what is required to do, and then they can do the work from home base. And there are areas. These are the things that we need to really look at. Yes, opportunities to a certain group of people are available, but the responsibilities does place in flesh, because when you have other family commitments, other responsibilities, so you can't go and stay there. But let's just change our perception around it. Let's just come with ways that we can actually include these people into the community. Look into places like, let's say, for example, if you have a traditional Maldivian buffet night, you can invite the local ladies to come and work, or they can do all the work from home and they can send the items. These are the areas where you can actually encourage them and increase the local female ratio to contribute to the tourism industry. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of resorts which really promotes this, to encourage more females to come to work, and then there are opportunities that has been laid out. Thank you.
Thank you, Shali. I think you mentioned really good points. I like the point about doing more outreach and, you know, doing more work to actually attract young people. I think the traditional thinking has been, you know, young people are lazy or they're just disillusioned and they're not interested. But I've always struggled to actually believe that about Maldivian young people, because at least for me, you know, I've been working 15 years in the public sector with UN, and, I've come across very hardworking young people and very passionate, very dedicated young people, whether it's in the UN, whether it's in the NGOs, whether even in the government, you know, throughout Maldives. I've come across a lot of very hardworking, very dedicated young people. So I always struggle to understand why we say that young people are not interested, they are too spoiled, you know, and, I know a lot of young people who have their day jobs and they volunteer in NGOs during their part-time, or they do, they're entrepreneurs, you know, they have their day jobs and they have their own businesses. So I think more needs to be done. As you said, more outreach needs to be done to ensure that they are actually interested in the industry. And I think that is the right thinking when we talk about future of work as well. It's the narrative is that, you know, I don't, before it was like, I need you to come and work for me. Now it's like, I want you to want to come and work for me. So that transition needs to happen, that thinking needs to be there in the industry as well. And then another thing that I wanted to also touch upon is the career transition, or, you know, the career prospects throughout somebody's lifetime. As I said, you know, in the past generations, people expect to dedicate their career to one place and one employer. But in our generation and, you know, future, like young people, they're looking for something else. And if we can, as you said, you know, with digitalization, with more freelance work, more flexible work, we can actually have more women and more Maldivians, you know, interested in the industry. And it applies to the work that we do as well, you know, especially in humanitarian work and aid industry. When we're, as young people, we start off with a lot of travel, a lot of field work, sometimes in very dangerous places as well. But when you become older, your priorities change. You know, you don't want to burn out in that kind of environment, or you have, you know, family obligations and you don't want to travel. So those types of, you know, different opportunities need to be explored in the industry as well, and be sold to the Maldivian, prospective workers, so that they, that they see they don't have to commit to 20 years of living on a resort or 40 years of living in a resort if they want a career in the industry. I think that change in the mindset is so important. So thanks for those points. Yeah, Afif?
Yeah, I'm just listening and very enlightened with all these comments from these wonderful speakers. And, I think we definitely there's an opportunity here. And I just want to, touch base on the key point here around the opportunities. Definitely, we look into this topic totally around, and I know I can see there's some very patient comments coming, especially on our Facebook, and we value all the comments. We value your feedback. That's what makes these engagements very interesting. And to tell you the truth, over the years, we as a country, we as stakeholders, we as operators, and including me, I'm talking about me we all have failed to really balance that out, because we haven't really trained the people that we need to be in the industry over the years. Last year, 2019, there's 23 resorts open in the Maldives. However, we didn't really train enough people, and I suppose because when an investment comes to the Maldives, we need to have people ready and to show that to happen. I want to give an example. In 2014, I just happened to be in the Walt Disney Orlando when they opened the second part, and I spoke one of their senior manager who was the talent development, and I saw a lot of Chinese students there, and student mean like they just finished school, and they were all walking there. And I asked them, because there was very less Chinese at the time as guests. I said, how come I see a lot of Chinese here? He said, we are training people to open the Disney in China in 2018. 2,000 people. And I bought something from a little shop there, and that Chinese girl, she spoke fluent English. What I'm talking is about this training opportunity. So if you're watching this, listen to this very carefully, okay? Number one, JobSeeker is starting an apprenticeship program. It's free online for 3 months. You get to teaching. And once you finish, we're going to put you in the resort in apprenticeship program. The Maldives Polytechnic's got several courses free of charge. Register and join. Even if you don't have a certificate, you're still working, you can join these courses, right? And what we are trying to do here is we're going to train people and get them ready. And we're going to approach all the HR directors and say, look, this island, there's 20 waiters that are trained. Why don't you use them as your in your next hiring? And that is one thing that is one reason why Shirley has taken a different job, I suppose. And she is keen on that. Believe me, I know how passionate she is, and we're going to help our nation to get through this. And I have no doubt about it. We will get where we want to go. But I just want to add one more little comment here. And also, I think post-pandemic, one of the key things will be around valuing the employees and the team members. And I know we're putting a lot of effort in focusing on our guests. And there will be two things or two opportunities we have. When our employees return to work, how can we be more human? I think we're all human beings, but how can we be more human? So being compassionate and listen to them. You have all these procedures. They may not follow it, but educate them, train them, guide them. Along the way, they will get through it, right? And we have to care. We have to make sure that, when they come on board, that we show them, we value them by listening to them. They've been at home for a long time, right? So that is important. The other thing is an opportunity for HR departments here. There's an interesting opportunity here. We can add more value to what we call as a business partner. We don't wait for someone to ask you to do something. As an HR member, be proactive, take action, study what's happening, study the market intelligence in terms of what's coming up, and go out there and find more ways to add value to people. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do something even today. So if you are as an HR person listening, pick up your phone, send a message to your colleague, and check on them. This is an example of how you can add value. Perhaps many of you do that. And I know we have another great conversation here. So Raina, take on to the next part here.
All right, thank you. And thank you for that example about the Disney World. I think that's that's a great opening for this final topic of the night, which is about the future of skills. We've talked about digitalization, we've talked about AI, we've talked about freelancing, gig economy, consulting work. and we've talked about the inclusivity elements. So now we're going to talk about how to prepare our workforce for those transformations. What are the skills that we're going to need? Are we ready to actually inculcate those skills amongst amongst Maldivians to ensure that they're ready for these big changes? So my first question is to Zaki. I just want to ask you about the types of professions that Maldivians should be. I mean, you touched upon, the data analytics and computer science, but what are the professions that we should be now preparing our young people on? Zaki.
Thank you, Rania. I think all of our industry colleagues, including these panelists and our all viewers, this question is not asking only Rania. This question is around in the industry. This question is around in this country.
Yeah.
What are the main important jobs or occupations that we are looking into the tourism industry? As you look at the economical language, we have to really see the main the income leakers that we have, we integrate there are many culinary team members. Mainly they are from different country or foreigners that they are working in. This is the one area, the chefs or the culinary work that the foreigners are working there. This is the area that we should work together hard to get our locals into this field. We need to make sure we have correct and right integration with our hotel school, our other training institutions. Do we have IT managers? These are also important field in the hospitality industry. Do we have enough accountants? Look at the multi-facet of this works or the jobs available in the hospitality industry is phenomenal. People do not really research how much job title, how much opportunities that we have. Just before coming to this panel discussion, I was looking into the new trendy job titles coming into hospitality industry. Just one sector, the front office sector. I was able to find out new emerging titles, more than 37 titles only into front office sector in hospitality industry. So I was looking at a little bit how which areas we should focus to Maldivian locals specifically. We need to have a proper collaboration with our hospitality industry and our institutions, more bring to the area for chefs. These are areas, accounting teams, IT, and we still, I would suggest, surely we need to get more Maldivian HR managers into the field where I see some areas which is lacking as well, sales and marketing team, as well as PR people. These are the areas we can really bring into. If you look at the hybrid approach of occupations here, looking at some of the areas that I have researched is like health and wellness areas. Can we really build people on health and wellness areas? Yes, we can really build Maldivians in that areas. We talk about the foreign language. I'm sure some of the viewers who are sitting here are some academians, some people who are giving training. How often we concentrate our language specialist, language learning. There are a lot of jobs there with the foreigners who are specialized in this area. If we can really focus on language teaching, language learning, where we can take most of the guest services, the guest relations, and other frontline jobs is very much potential for locals if you really integrate the academia sector as well as the industry together. The other area I have found here is like talking about the technological advancement. We just highlighted digitalization. We just highlighted about AI. The industry need to be really waking our young generations. There are emerging new titles, new job opportunities talking about in our industry. Do we really require medical doctors into the resort? Yes, this is the most appropriate time that we need to talk about that. Do we need nurses on the resort? Yes, this is again a recalling of post-COVID reopening areas. We need to talk about the spa tourism. We need to talk about yoga. I have one of our panelists here. Thank you, all the way from Portugal. Really inspiring young Maldivians. Yes, we can do it. Do we have gym instructors, Maldivians? If you look at the whole industry around, are they more Maldivians or are they more foreigners? But locals can be trained on those areas. The other areas that I would like to highlight is the social media area. We have title called social media specialist, content developers, web designers, and the whole connection in combination called e-commerce department. We do not have people develop on these emerging new occupations. Revenue managers, how many Maldivian revenue managers we have? And talking about the health and welfare service supervisors, event coordinators, there are a lot of things. The hospitality industry, look at carefully, closely, there's a lot of jobs. Young Maldivians, school leavers, the academians, parents, guardians, please look at more carefully in order to develop. There's a abundant of opportunities in tourism industry. I would say all need to be connected, talking one language, connect, give your hands together to develop Maldivians into tourism industry. We need to believe this is our industry. We have to take care of our industry, but we need to develop people in a well designed individual development plans, HR managers, HR directors, training directors, and academics to be connected on these well available opportunities. Thank you, Rania.
Thank you, Zaki. And then you've mentioned the professions. Now, what about the trainings? And I want to ask this to Inaz. You know, you're going to be launching your own training programs on JobSeeker. What about schools? You know, what do we need to change? What about TVET? What about all the training colleges and universities we have? You know, what do they need to change to be able to meet these expectations on skilling and building professions? And also, if we take that futuristic, you know, approach, what needs to change in us? I think you're muted.
Okay, I think it's good now. Thank you very much, all the viewers who are looking at this conversation from different parts of the Maldives and other places. And I see quite a nice comment from Zina Soliu mentioning about collaboration with industry, support more trainees and with no previous experience. And a little bit going back to what Zaki said, I was very happy to hear that, you know, all these opportunities, we have great future in our country. Tourism industry is 1/3 of our country's economy. So we have all the areas open for everybody. So it's not limited to certain people. It's for us to take over and build our skills and move forward. And I would like to first of all apologize if I take a little bit more time, because I'm very passionate about talking about this this particular training area that you have highlighted. I mean, we have been working on a program called My Entry to Hospitality, along with many experts who have joined the force to support the locals to build new, fresh, and supply new, fresh blood to the industry before the end of the year. And we were very happy to see we have got 270 registration for now, and as of today. This shows we have interest. And what I'm about to say is that in the past 12 years, coming from the tourism industry, working in the training department, human resources, and the operations, I also, I mean, the past 4 months, it changed my perception of how I look at the entry level jobs, quite honestly. The industry is here, and our perception about entry jobs and what we are, I mean, there's a huge gap between what we are doing to cater to the industry to what the industry really wants. This is very important for all of us to understand, and I see a lot of attendees from human resources sector as well. The entry job really does not need skills of hours of skills requirement. This is wrong. This is what we are trying to achieve here. If you look at the entry jobs, we are talking about public area attendant. We are talking about a runner who moved linen from one hut to the other hut. We are talking about a spa attendant. We are talking about steward, for example. We are talking about a gardener. In the Maldives, gardening jobs are paid more than, I mean, quite decently, especially in the high-end resorts. This is a high-paying jobs because the service charge is very high and all these other aspects. So we have people who are looking for jobs, but because they don't have experience, they don't get these jobs. And then in the end, in the resorts, we have a lot of other nationalities taking over these same jobs, doing these semi-skilled, what we call unskilled jobs with no experience, but still the jobs are and the gaps are filled. So what we need at the moment now is we really need to have programs that changes the mindset. We call it hospitality mindset. We need people to be educated on what the tourism sector is about. How is the living in resort looks like? Who will take care of you? Where will you be eating? What are the policies and procedures you have to follow? Where do you wash your uniforms? Because when a youth from an island goes to a resort, they get lost. This is what we don't teach them. Then I believe as an entry to the hospitality, for the entry jobs, we can eliminate or we can reduce the number of skill trainings and focus more on attitude, hospitality mind trainings, and create awareness. The awareness can come from all the sectors. It can come from the schools. It can come from the institutions. I would like to share with you two examples that I have experienced in the past 2 weeks. One, we have got a call because we help a lot of youth through job seeker. We got a call from a 19 years old looking for a job, desperate and need help. So we don't provide jobs, but we guide them. I asked him to send a CV, and he sent me the CV from an email that says pubg.love@gmail.com. I mean, I couldn't even laugh at that because, you know, it's so sad that the youth does not understand what is professionalism, how to approach to the jobs, what email should be there, they should be using, and how the professional pictures look like, how important it is to have the CVs updated. So they need guidance from the schools to the institutions before they approach to the industry, because we are not talking about local resorts alone here. We are talking about worldwide brands, and all the brands are in the Maldives. We have resorts like Ritz-Carlton coming next year. These are high-end brands. One and Only is here. Four Seasons is here. They expect quite a lot of professionalism. We need people to teach that. And the other one more example, Rani, I would like to share is that we got a call from a girl saying that my husband is looking for a job and we are in a desperate situation. Family is not in a good shape. Can you help? Now, again, where is the husband? Where is his initiative? We need to come out. We should, and basically I asked them to send a CV to have a look and see how can we guide them. None of the phone number in the CV works. The email does not work. The CV was very basic. I mean, this is the impression we are giving to the employer and thinking that we are getting the job. This is the gap we are talking about. This is where we are at the moment to what we have in the industry. The industry has grown bigger than what we are. We have to grow with it now. We have to look into the institutions like higher education has so many opportunities. We have to take this. We have to look for programs like what we are opening up, My Entry to Hospitality. We are going to have all these experts teaching and training people on the basic soft skills before they join into the industry. So I think that sums up the whole thing about the young people in the schools. And I really believe tourism sector is gonna go more bigger after the pandemic. Obviously, it's already 1/3 of the countries, and then we have so many resorts to open. The education system, from the schools, we have to start talking about what Zaki has mentioned just now. We need to give them this information. We need to talk about all these jobs that are going to come to the industry, and locals needs to be trained. And we can talk more about it, but I know we have limited time, but I'm sorry to take more time. If there's any more question, I'm happy to take, but I will sum up from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nizam. And I'll move on to Naisha now, touching on some of the things that you mentioned as well, Inaz, on the importance of, competencies and behavioral aspects and attitudes. And when we talk about future of skills, some of the key trends that we are seeing is the ability to do self-learning, the creativity, flexibility, agility, adaptability. These are the things that the future of work requires from a person. It's no longer about the knowledge or, how much you know about a certain profession. It's really about being that all-rounder and being able to,
yeah, it's about attitude.
Yeah, so there's a lot of new interesting things. So I want to ask Naisha, because as a freelancer and as a young person, you have I think demonstrated some of these skills. So do you think we can actually teach these skills? How do you actually inculcate these type of things in somebody's behavior or in somebody's mindset?
Okay,
on your experience.
Okay, just to start with, it's really interesting points that you have highlighted in the whole talk, especially about locals, the opportunities for locals, which have been really narrowed down. I would say, I would like to highlight, since I am here, like out of Maldives, I'm right here because of work, because I had a lot of challenges in finding jobs from resorts. And I would say I tried to look into opportunities when I was in Maldives, like even working in resorts, like applying for a lot of places, but I never had the opportunity to work as much as I wanted to. But I have some experiences, but not really based in a resort and working as a designer or even as a yoga teacher. So this is something I wanted to highlight. And I think right now it's very important that you give more opportunities to locals. In this way, we will be growing together, like we are together in this. And in terms of skills and creativity, I would like to tell you that it's time that we think out of the box and bring new ideas and to change the whole to change the whole system of how we were working before, because now this has to change in a really positive way, and to bring more opportunities for locals especially. And then if there is a possibility, I would be like really it would be really helpful if you can communicate and also to try to get connected into looking into these kind of people that you would like to add into the network. It could be musicians, it could be artists, it could be anything which can bring an addition into the industry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Naisha. And I think that's a good suggestion for you, Inaz, for the job seekers. You should have a freelancers and consulting network in addition to, the employees. And then I would like to now move on to Shali, and I want to ask you about, how professions will evolve as a HR person, even within HR, there are some changes that we see when we talk about the future of skills. We especially even in other professions, like even accounting, you know, it's no longer about bookkeeping. There are other more strategic roles that accountants can play, while the bookkeeping can be done by a software. So Charlotte, can you touch upon these things? You know, how will these kind of specific professions evolve, and how should we change our training programs and prepare our workforce for those?
Okay. As they say, what we are training today may no longer be required tomorrow, right? Zaki, Inas, that's what everybody keeps on saying. So what we need to keep in mind is that when we are developing training programs, when we are really looking at the future, we need to make sure that our team or the workforce is ready for a multi-skill jobs, not only for a dedicated one job, because in the industry itself, we can see that some jobs are no longer required, some jobs are not at the moment in the structures. And with this change happening, there will be so many changes coming into the structure. And we really look at the future, that's what we really need to train the people into. And right now, we may not have a mass recruitment for fulfilling all the positions, because everybody will be like, what do we really need to do in 3 months' time? What are the positions that we are going to look in 3 months' time to fill in? Do we have that skills, or do we have that talent in the industry, or even in the job market? Do we have this? That's what people are going to really look into. So they are all going to be focusing on all these things, and the industry itself is evolving. We all know that, right? So we need to train the people for tomorrow, not only for today, but for the future. That's what we really need to target and look into. And then if we really look at some of the management positions as well, even the HR, I mean, all the managers, we have to say that they are all HR managers, because they are also dealing with the people aspect. That's the part of their 90% part of their job role. So if you are managing a team, you need to understand the emotional intelligence as well. And with the situation, the current situation that the people has faced, this is a time where you have to train your managers to make sure that the human aspect of it is understood, the psychological aspect is understood. You can train people, but the thing is that when these people come to the work environment, you need to understand what they have gone through. You can always have a small group of people together, talk about it in a very personal level, understand what their fear is, what they really need, because they no longer have that job security anymore. They know that the outside forces are there. They may lose their job anytime, right? So these things, build up your relationships, make sure you are transparent, make sure you communicate with them, make sure you do this together. The goal setting, all these things should be, you should take in account their ideas as well. They may have good ideas. So these things managers should now understand. They can't just manage and then make sure that, okay, nobody's idea is included, I'm going to just manage my team, I'm going to achieve my goals. That doesn't work anymore. So these things will change around. So the managers needs to keep an open mind and make sure that they get their team on board with them. And as I said before, you have to tell them. Even the HR department needs to understand there will be so many people who will be coming and talking to you and asking them for advice. They will be going through so many things that has happened during these 3 months. So there are things that you need to really understand, the social psychological aspect, the emotional aspect of it. Without these things, or without these skills, you will not be able to actually bring them on board 100%, because it takes time, and it is really something that we really need to understand, especially when you are working in an environment like the resort industry, where you are 24/7 in the workplace. You see the same people. So this is where it is, what is lacking right now. And this is where most of the employers or the management need to focus. And the HR also should be tool or equipped with this kind of information or how to deal with these situations. That's what's going to come up with the next couple of months. That is going to be there. So that's a very big focus that we all need to look into. I'm sure Zaki and Inaz would also agree with me, because this is some things that we have all been discussing about recently. And I can also, from the previous conversation we had, Zaki also mentioned about the emotional intelligence aspect that needs to be included in the training.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely worthwhile investment, even in the long term, you know, and especially going forward, achieving business resilience. I think that's definitely an area where, you know, your investments, immediate investments would actually generate long-term business sustainability and resilience. So I think we've covered quite a lot of ground, and you know, it has been a pleasure talking to you all. And I'll just hand over to Afif for the final bit of tonight's session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rani, and thanks all the panelists and participants. I just want to ask a question at this moment with all the participants. You know, at the end of a virtual session, learning session, you know, not just virtual session, but it may be in-person training or learning session, you know, you either feel two things. One is you feel really motivated and inspired, and or you feel very overwhelmed, or your question would be, okay, so what's next? So I want you to take a moment now, go to the chat box and write how you're feeling right now. Excited, overwhelmed, or even maybe stressed after hearing all of us. I mean, I'm all right with it, and I'm okay with it, because I think we had to talk about the challenges and the problems we have so that we can address it. So participants, take a moment, go to the chat box, write how you're feeling now. Perhaps if you're grateful that you joined with us this evening, or you have a different thought, different view. I can see we have comments coming on our Facebook page. So while you take a moment to write your comment, I just want to share three things here. Perhaps before I do that, I want to take some participants' questions. There was a question that actually came from a very active participant on our Facebook page, and thanks for sharing your valuable view and comments. There's a question that says that, will there be any impact on the service that we provide to our guests as a result of the new health and safety standards in resort? Inaz, I would like you to tackle this question briefly on this one.
Hello, Afif.
Yes, make it brief, my friend. Yeah.
So, with regards to the challenges to get the job in the industry, this is something that
I think the question is about with the new standards that are coming, right? Because of the post-COVID features, would there be any impact to the service standards for our guests?
There will be short-term impact, obviously. There are two stages. One is that living, we call new normal, living and opening the doors with COVID. That's the short-term impact, where we have the mask on, where we have the social distancing going on, and the personal engagement of what we call hotel industry is not going to be existing for the time being. So there will be impact in the service level. But in the long term, when it comes to the long term, I think again, this industry is all about adding value to people, making memorable memories, creating this whole memorable event. So I think it is going to be returning back to the service standard that we have. The health and safety service standards is going to be revised. There will be few more add-on to those aspects as well.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much for that response. Very brief and spot on. There's also another question that came through, and I would actually ask this question from Shirley, because you are a master in the believing of the training experience and the localization and the whole human capital point there. The question from one of the participants was that there are a lot of people that actually applies with very good certificates, wonderful degrees, I suppose MBAs, but because they don't have the years of experience, it seems that the employers do not tend to hire them. So what do you think is the rest, what's happening here, and what is perhaps the employers looking for? Is there a issue with the gap of expectations, and what should be the attitude of the employee when a potential employee when they apply for a job? Could you briefly talk about this?
Okay, thank you, Afif. Yes, very good question. Let me just share some of my experience. Okay, you can have a degree, you can have a master, which is very good, but there are certain jobs in the industry, in the tourism industry, that you need to have experience. And when I am actually doing the recruitment, for example, I had done a mass recruitment and I was in a local island and we were interviewing a lot of candidates. And then every time when a school leaver or a diploma completed candidate comes in, I ask them, so what job are you applying? General manager, executive housekeeper, front office manager. And then that's where the conversation starts, because they expect, when you have a degree or when you have a diploma, they expect the positions to be, especially the young mind, current generation, they expect it to be a manager level job. So I try to explain to them, okay, that's a very good goal, that you aim for the highest, which means that you are determined and you are confident that you want to be in that role, but that comes with experience. Because end of the day, you are going to be managing a team. You need to make sure that you know the basics first, to make sure the basic is there to make it successful. So it will take 30 to 25 minutes to explain these areas, and then they will finally say, yes, I did not know those areas are required, or that I have to have those experience. That's one reason. And then the other reason is that in the industry, to make it success, you have to start with entry level or in the supervisory level or as a middle management, and then you have to go to the higher level, because otherwise you will not be a hands-on driven, value driven person, because you will not understand the industry operation and all these things. And if you really look at us, myself, Zaki, yourself, Afif, we all has been there. We all have started from the very low entry level and we have come up to here, and that is why we are so successful today. That's what I would. And that is one reason why they ask for the experience. And make sure, just go into the industry, make sure that you work for it. Maybe it doesn't have to be 20 years. It doesn't have to be 10 years. It can be even 1 year, 2 years. You can achieve your goals. So that is the mindset that we need to have when we apply for a job.
Yeah, no, there's a good point there. And I think we have to start somewhere to get where we want to go. It's challenging at times to start, with it is. And, and that's why as we've come to almost to the end of our conversation, I just want to highlight 2 points here. And then I have a very interesting story to tell. So you don't want to go, you want to listen to this story, and you will love this story, by the way. The thing is this, we spoke a lot about, I think I'm very happy that we spoke a lot about, increasing the local workforce, and that is a very important thing. We will work with those stakeholders. I'm also very happy to see some wonderful industry leaders in this conversation today. I'm also happy that the head of our current hotel school institution, Zenith, also made very good comments there. We're happy to work with all these stakeholders to really, because it's a challenge we have, so we have to rise to the challenge. We can't just accept all the issues we have and then let it go. We can't, because the cost is higher. So my first point here is that for all school leavers, and even you finish your school, you have a certificate, don't wait, start somewhere. I finished my CHSA. I remember the day I wrote my final exam. Next day I was working in a part-time job somewhere. This is one thing we don't see many places. Well, you have to find an opportunity, and there are opportunities available. It doesn't have to be a world-class thing, but you have to start somewhere. And that's the final story I'm going to tell you later on. And the other thing is that there was a comment was made on Facebook, I think by Aisha Hussein Muhammad. She made a very good comment. It's true that Maldives has been focusing on tourism industry so much so that if you look at the value of our industry today, it's $15 billion. And that's the tourism industry itself. The majority of our income, there's this stat which shows that every 0.6 60 cents from every dollar that comes to our country comes from hotel industry. But you see what happened during the pandemic? There was reports that the fish export went so high. So we see there's an opportunity here. I think as industry stakeholders, it's also something that we can have a look, because if we have different varieties of income generation to a country, it could also reduce the burden in terms of like this. And I want to give a hope to all of you, and we as MAHRP, we are very committed to work on all these challenges that we have. And one thing that we will also introduce very soon, probably a couple of weeks time, is we're working on that, is what we call as career coaching. Imagine you finish your school, you don't know what to do. Imagine if you had the opportunity to call Shirley and say, I just finished school, this is what I love doing, what can I do? Shirley will tell you. But of course, you need to know how to reach Shirley, and we're going to help you to do that. Let's say you have a challenge and you want to be a freelancer. You don't know where to start. You can call Naisha. And the career coaching is something we don't really have in the Maldives a lot, and we're going to do that. Then the other hope is that over the years, I've done a lot of awareness of hospitality industry. But when was the last time we did that to our parents? We did a session with one of the high school in Maldives just last December. There was a student who wanted to, and it was a female student who wanted to join the resort, and she lost the job because she wanted to work in the reception, after she visited the resort. And, her parent didn't want her to. Her parents said, well, you have to be a doctor because that's what I think you should do, because working in the resort is not good at all. Hospitality jobs are the best job in the world, because wherever you are serving people. Right? So we are going to start parent awareness session. And we'll do that when the school reopens, already discussing with partners, education and also other, because we can only do this together. And the last thing is my story. And so please listen to this very carefully. I'm very inspired by this story. This didn't come from a motivation. It came from one of my mentors, Joe Maxwell. And his father is 93 years old, so which means he experienced the World War II. So after the World War II, and when there's economic recession, he lost his job. And what happened was, when he lost his job, he didn't have a way to earn income, and obviously he had kids to look after. And he said, what am I going to do? So he went to nearby shops around, and he said, I know you don't have a job for me, but I'll work every day, 1 hour, 2 hours free here. When your things get better, please prioritize me so that you can hire me and start paying me. And the shopkeeper said, well, who would do that? He said, this is all right. I don't want any money. I will come every day to work for you, 2 hours free, 2 hours this shop, 2 hours that shop. So after 4 months, when the economy started bouncing back, all those shops called, Melvin Maxwell is his name, Joe Maxwell's father. And everyone calls and said, hey, Melvin, we got a job here. We can pay you now. Would you want to come and join us? Of course, he can't join 4 shops. He did this free, but he chose one job. What's the lesson from this story? We should not wait, right? We should not, every day that you wait without doing a job after your school is the day that you will never get there. Every day that you wait complaining because you didn't get the opportunity is the day you will do something, go somewhere, help, volunteer, do whatever it takes. Eventually, it will benefit you. So I hope all the viewers, you enjoyed our conversation today. Before I end, I want to thank Rania from UNDP for really collaborating with MAHRP and getting this organized and doing this wonderful research. And also Zaki sharing for your insights and thoughts from operation into teaching. And also Naisha Ode from Portugal, sharing some sunlight from Portugal. It's the evening time in the Maldives, but definitely you shared some insights and helpful comments for all our speakers and also the viewers. Inas, you shared some great thoughts there, and I know many viewers are inspired by your generosity and offering of various thoughts there. And Shirley, wonderful to see your view and definitely being a role model there to talk about industry, collectiveness and how can we put everybody together and work together. So to all the participants, we hope you had a wonderful evening today listening to us. And we thank all of you for your time. And and really appreciate all the comments and questions that that came through. Just before I close, I'll give 1 minute to each speaker, and then we'll close. Shirley, a closing remark.
For all those who want to be part of this industry, there are so much opportunities out there. Don't lose hope. We are here. We will get through this, and we are there to guide you and assist you. If you want to contact us, you can contact us through, and we will be there to guide you and assist you with what you need. And also don't forget to make sure that you do take these golden opportunities by the Higher Education Ministry, the training programs that they have laid out with, and also with us, my entry to the Hospitality Maldives. Encourage, share, tell your brothers, sisters, all your friends from all the local islands, those who want to join the industry. We are here to help you, guide you, and we'll make sure that you get the opportunities that you needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Inas, closing remark, please.
I know closing remarks is very short, so thank you everyone, all the viewers. We can be reached from JobSeeker, and along with MAHRP and many other professionals, we are coming to you with an amazing program. Stay tuned. We are going to start in July. I have another great news. Basically, we foresee, I have had many conversations with some of the industry experts. We foresee great increase, a great level of increase in outsourcing after this pandemic. Many hotels are already thinking of doing it. Graphic designers out there, please get prepared, because these functions and these jobs are going to be outsourced. Many resorts are going to do that. And also to the comment that was made, we from JobSeeker, we will prepare all the freelancers a platform, a one hub where you all can come and register, and resorts can come and do shopping. So this is something that we will be promising to you all, and we will work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Inas. Very nice. And Naisha, just a closing remark from you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And Inas, thank you for opening up a platform for all the graphic designers and freelancers. And that's a really good step. And I'm hoping for a really positive future for the Maldives, especially in the tourism sector. And I think things are going to change in a really positive way. Yeah.
Very good, very good. We all need that hope, message of hope. Very good. And Zaki, closing remark.
First of all, thank you, MAHRP and UNDP for really organizing such an important talk to our industry, as well as our parents, guardians, and the educational institutions. These talks has to be continued. And especially I have been noticed very, very noticeable point here, as Afif has mentioned. Can we really do sessions for parents? We need to have the mindset from all the connecting areas. The connecting dot has to be connected everywhere, creating the values of this industry from all the minds in Maldives. This is where we need to do now. Continuation of these talks has to be very, very important. I would like to thank you all the panelists as well. This is important that the industry stakeholders, industry experts come out from their experience and share this information to the local young locals, as well as the academias, to make sure setting a mindset, really openly say there's a bundle of opportunities in the industry. Thank you so much for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Zaki. And a closing remark from Rani.
Thank you, Afif. I just want to thank everybody. I've learned so much from this session, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And it's so good to see that, you know, we're going to see positive changes, including some concrete outcomes from this dialogue. You know, Inas, I'm really happy to hear what you've just announced. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the new transformations and hoping to see that the industry gets reshaped to benefit Maldivians. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Randy, and thanks to all the viewers and all the participants. Your comments, your thoughts made our conversation, better, and there's some follow-up leads there. So once again, MAHRP virtual programs are out there, so please stay tuned to our page and also social other platforms we'll be sharing. And thank you really for being a partner in this conversation. To all our Facebook viewers, wonderful job, and stay tuned for our future activities. And have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.